Why'd you walk all over me? I've had enough of your lies and your fake pity. Get a knife in my face, or I never regret it. Sit down and shut up before I make you wish you'd never opened your mouth in my courtroom. I don't give a shit about your courtroom or your stupid gavel. Get lost before I tear you apart. Fuck you.
The courtroom lights flickered, and the camera zoomed in on a moment that would soon be replayed millions of times across the globe. Karen Whitmore, a 48-year-old woman sporting oversized designer sunglasses and clutching a flawless white cane, stumbled into Judge Judy's courtroom as if she were performing in a stage drama about sudden blindness. Each step was a carefully orchestrated act, her gestures exaggerated, her head tilting in the stereotypical posture of someone who is supposedly visually impaired. It was a performance that demanded attention, and it was about to unravel. Spectacularly, Corinne had been plotting this scheme for half a year. She had convinced herself that she had crafted the perfect disguise, a supposedly degenerative eye condition that would generate sympathy, money, and lawsuits in equal measure. Today she walked in confident, believing she could outwit one of the toughest judges on television. She would soon learn just how wrong she was. The case in question involved Barbara Chen, a 52-year-old small business owner who had poured her heart, soul, and life savings into an accounting firm. Barbara had hired Karen 8 months prior, and for a time, everything seemed fine. That is, until Corinne announced she had gone blind overnight from a rare, unverified medical condition. Barbara, naturally, had offered accommodations and flexibility, but then inconsistencies began appearing. Co-workers reported seeing Karen behind the wheel of her car. Security footage from the office captured her moving about the workplace with precise, confident navigation. She would claim she couldn't read, yet she was caught texting and scrolling through her phone. When Barbara confronted her, Karen had threatened to sue for discrimination, and 2 weeks later, Barbara found herself facing a $125,000 lawsuit for wrongful termination, disability discrimination, and emotional distress. Judge Judy Files had examined the case file meticulously for 2 days. Every instinct honed over 25 years of Manhattan courtroom experience told her this was not a typical claim. She had encountered countless fraudsters, but few were as audacious as someone faking a disability. She had made inquiries, verified documents, and prepared a strategy that would leave Corinne exposed in front of millions. Judge Judy's investigation included contacting the supposed doctor, reviewing social media, and even arranging for a certified service dog to be present, a four-legged witness no one could anticipate. As Karen delivered her opening statements, the courtroom held its breath. She painted a vivid, tragic picture of her life turned upside down by sudden blindness. Her voice quivered, her cane tapped in wide arcs, and water spilled on the table in a seemingly catastrophic accident. Spectators were momentarily fooled. Barbara, tense but determined, prepared her evidence. Security footage, photographs, coworker testimonies, and social media activity all pointed to one truth. Karen could see perfectly fine. When Judge Judy turned her attention to Barbara, the atmosphere shifted. Barbara, visibly worn by months of stress and legal fees, presented detailed documentation proving Karen's deceit. She showed footage of Corinne navigating in darkness, images of her performing visual tasks, and posts from social media contradicting her claims of complete blindness. Karen's first reaction was defensive. That must be edited. Those posts are old. There's a mistake. But her objections rang hollow against the weight of the evidence. Judge Judy then questioned Karen's medical records. Karen had claimed treatment from Dr. Michael Stevens, an eye specialist. Judge Judy revealed that Dr. Stevens had retired over a year ago, and the signature on Karen's documents was a forgery. The courtroom's mood shifted from curiosity to tension. Karen's performance was beginning to crumble, but she persisted, insisting her blindness was real and her condition devastating. The judge, unflinching, called for a mobility demonstration using the white cane, a simple but definitive test of genuine blindness. Karen's attempt was clumsy. Her cane swept theatrically rather than following the precise arc required to detect obstacles. Each misstep highlighted the gap between Karen's performance and the reality of someone visually impaired. The audience's murmurs grew. The facade was weakening Dot as Karen struggled with the cane. Judge Judy introduced her final undeniable test, a certified service dog named Bailey. The dog's presence changed everything. Karen, who had prepared for every scenario except this, visibly stiffened. Her body betrayed her, reacting to the dog's approach with awareness only possible for someone who could see. The tension in the courtroom became palpable. Viewers could feel that the moment of truth was approaching. Judge Judy's voice cut through the charged silence. "Mrs. Whitmore, since you claim to be completely blind, Bailey will guide you from your table to my bench. Show us how you navigate this space." Karen hesitated, insisting she didn't need help, but Judge Judy insisted. As Bailey approached, Karen's eyes, hidden behind sunglasses, tracked the dog's every movement. She adjusted her path flawlessly, avoiding the dog without so much as a tap of her cane. The court's realization was immediate. Karen's claims were unraveling in real-time. By the time Judge Judy produced a tennis ball for the final test, Karen's facade had nowhere left to hide. The ball sailed toward her, and Karen caught it with reflexes only someone with functional vision could demonstrate. Silence fell. Shock registered on everyone's faces. Barbara allowed herself a faint smile of vindication. Karen's performance had collapsed in spectacular fashion, exposed by a simple act that confirmed what the evidence had already suggested. She was not blind. Judge Judy's measured, unforgiving authority left no room for excuses. Karen's forged documents, fraudulent claims, and manipulated social media posts were laid bare. The audience witnessed the slow, devastating realization of a woman caught entirely in her own web of deceit. In minutes, months of manipulation, lies, and exploitation of disability benefits came crashing down. This was only the beginning. Karen's fraudulent empire had been built on deception, and every lie she told was about to be dissected publicly, step by step. Judge Judy wasn't just about legal rulings. She was about exposing truth in the most decisive, undeniable, and satisfying way possible. And for Karen Whitmore, there was no escape. The first shockwaves had hit. The cameras captured every flicker of panic, every quivering gesture, and every failed attempt at performance. The story had begun. Karen's downfall was underway, and the world was about to witness one of the most electrifying courtroom takedowns ever recorded. The courtroom was electric with anticipation. Karen Whitmore, still gripping her white cane, tried to project calm, but every muscle in her body screamed otherwise. She was beginning to realize that Judge Judy's courtroom wasn't just about legal arguments. It was about truth, exposure, and consequences. Every exaggerated gesture, every carefully rehearsed line of her performance was now under microscopic scrutiny. Judge Judy's gaze remained fixed, unwavering, as if she could see through Karen's very soul. She gestured to the bailiff. "Bring forward the documents I requested," she said. The bailiff moved quickly, returning with folders thick enough to crush Karen's confidence all on their own. Judge Judy opened one, sliding photographs across the bench for the cameras to capture. There they were, images of Karen in full sunlight, perfectly navigating spaces she claimed she couldn't see, performing tasks that no blind person could. Karen's eyes, hidden behind dark lenses, flicked nervously to the evidence. Her lips pressed together, her breathing quickened. The audience sensed the shift. The tension was palpable. She had prepared for sympathetic glances, perhaps even mild skepticism, but this unrelenting, precise dissection of her fraud was another matter entirely. "Mrs. Whitmore," Judge Judy said, her voice cold but measured, "let's talk about your social media activity. These photographs from 3 weeks ago show you handling firearms at a shooting range. Targets hit dead center. Explain this." Karen's head tilted, an almost comical attempt at the helplessness she had perfected. That was a special exercise? A training program? She began, but her voice wavered, betraying the thin veneer of her story. Every excuse that had worked on sympathetic acquaintances, every rehearsed sob story, fell flat against Judge Judy's piercing interrogation. Judge Judy leaned forward, letting silence stretch across the courtroom like a tightrope. "Mrs. Whitmore, how does a completely blind person aim and fire a weapon with such precision?" The question wasn't rhetorical, it was a gauntlet. Karen's mind raced, searching for an answer that didn't exist. She opened her mouth, closed it, and finally muttered, I must have had assistance. The courtroom murmured. Barbara Chen sat stoic, exhausted but vindicated, as the evidence of Karen's deception mounted. Judge Judy's gaze never wavered. Each detail she revealed was a blow, each inconsistency a hammer striking Karen's facade. The photos, the documents, the security footage, they all converged into a single, undeniable truth. Karen Whitmore was not blind. Judge Judy's next move was subtle, surgical, and devastating. Mrs. Whitmore, I would like to discuss the letter you submitted from Dr. Stevens. You claim this specialist has been treating you, correct? Karen nodded, bracing herself for what she thought would be another sympathetic inquiry. Interesting, Judge Judy continued, her voice sharp. Dr. Stevens retired over a year ago. The signature on your document is an exact match to his, but a handwriting expert confirms it is forged. Explain that. Karen's posture stiffened. Her hands trembled slightly on her cane. The performance she had honed for months was cracking under the pressure. She attempted to recover, her voice rising defensively. There must be a mix-up. Perhaps another doctor with the same name. Judge Judy's expression didn't budge. There is no other doctor. This is a forgery, Mrs. Whitmore, a very poor one at that. The courtroom audience leaned in. Even casual viewers could sense that the walls were closing in. Karen's carefully constructed narrative, her months of calculated deception, was unraveling in front of millions. The judge didn't pause. She shifted to the mobility demonstration she had been building toward, a test designed to expose Karen without a shadow of doubt. Mrs. Whitmore, please demonstrate how you would navigate this courtroom using your cane. From your seat to the defendant's table. Standard procedure for visually impaired individuals. Karen's fingers tightened around the cane, her mind frantically recalling every YouTube tutorial she had memorized. She stood, moving with exaggerated caution. Her cane swept in theatrical arcs, not a true rhythmic pattern. Every movement was too deliberate, too forced. The audience noticed. Murmurs grew. Judge Judy's voice cut through the whispers. Mrs. Whitmore, that is not how a mobility cane is used. Genuine technique involves detecting obstacles before physical contact. What you're demonstrating is theatrics, not skill. Karen's panic grew. Her breaths came faster, her steps more deliberate. The facade she had depended on for 6 months was dissolving before her eyes. Then came the moment she had not anticipated. Bailey, the certified service dog. The handler led the golden retriever into the courtroom. The dog, calm, alert, and professional, approached Karen with precision. Bailey's presence was more than symbolic. It was a live, undeniable test. Karen's reaction was immediate. She shifted backward slightly, her body rigid, tracking the dog's every movement. Her voice, though calm, had a sharp edge of tension. I don't need a dog, she insisted. I can navigate with my cane. Judge Judy's smile was merciless. Humor me, Mrs. Whitmore. Consider this a demonstration of accommodations provided to visually impaired individuals. Surely you have no objection to accepting assistance. The handler guided Bailey to Karen's path. She remained motionless, a fixed point in the center of the room. Karen's cane tapped theatrically, sweeping wide, but she never touched the dog. Instead, she adjusted her trajectory perfectly, walking around Bailey with the precision of someone who could see. The audience gasped. Barbara's jaw dropped. The murmur rose to astonished whispers. Karen had inadvertently betrayed herself. Every step, every micro-adjustment was visible evidence of her deception. The tension in the courtroom became nearly unbearable. Judge Judy's voice sliced through the charged atmosphere. Mrs. Whitmore, how did you know Bailey was in your path? How did you navigate around her without using your cane? Karen's response was frantic, defensive. I sensed her. I felt its instinct. Judge Judy shook her head, the expression of someone who had no patience left for lies. Blind individuals do not navigate obstacles with perfect spatial awareness without tactile or auditory input. This was visual coordination, Mrs. Whitmore. The evidence is undeniable. Karen's posture crumbled. Her sunglasses, designed to shield her eyes from scrutiny, did nothing to hide the panic spreading across her face. The audience could see that the tide had turned. What had started as a confident performance had collapsed into a desperate scramble to maintain the illusion. Judge Judy didn't let her off the hook. She reached for a bright yellow tennis ball, a final, decisive test. The ball would move through space, and Karen's reaction would be impossible to fake. The courtroom held its breath. Every eye was on Karen. Every camera angle was poised to capture the outcome. Karen's hands shot up instinctively, catching the ball cleanly and perfectly. Her reflexes were flawless, her movements coordinated, precise, and undeniably visual. The audience erupted. Barbara Chen exhaled in relief. Karen stood frozen, the weight of exposure pressing down from every angle. Judge Judy's voice was calm but lethal. "Mrs. Whitmore, would you care to explain how a completely blind person just caught a ball thrown at her face?" Karen's defenses crumbled completely. Her fabricated story, her rehearsed gestures, her lies, all of it was laid bare in front of millions. The final proof of her fraud had been delivered in real time. Undeniable, irrefutable, and devastating. And this was just the beginning. The courtroom had shifted from curiosity to shock to the first waves of absolute humiliation. Karen's empire of deceit was collapsing, and the world was about to watch every last detail unravel. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Karen Whitmore, frozen near the center, her white cane clutched tightly, stared at the bright yellow tennis ball in Judge Judy's hand. Every inch of her body radiated tension, every carefully rehearsed gesture now useless against the impending test. She knew something was coming, but nothing could have prepared her for the absolute certainty that this demonstration would expose her. Judge Judy's voice carried across the silent courtroom, precise and unyielding. "Mrs. Whitmore, I am about to conduct a test. A simple test to demonstrate something that every person watching, every individual who has followed your case, must understand. Blind individuals cannot track objects moving through space. They cannot coordinate their hand movements to intercept a fast-moving object they cannot see. The ball I am holding will prove, beyond any doubt, whether your claims of blindness are genuine." Karen's fingers tightened around the cane. "Your Honor, this is unnecessary," she said, her voice rising slightly, tinged with panic. "I've already provided medical documentation." "This is harassment." Judge Judy cut her off sharply. "Your medical documentation is forged." "That letter from Dr. Stevens, the retired ophthalmologist?" "Forged. Completely. And this demonstration will reveal the truth that the documents attempt to hide." The bailiff stepped forward, holding the fluorescent yellow tennis ball. The cameras zoomed in as Judge Judy turned, tossing the ball directly toward Karen. Not gently, not theatrically firmly, with enough velocity that anyone without vision would flinch helplessly. Karen's reaction was instantaneous, almost frightening in its precision. Her hands shot up, perfectly timed, fingers snapping around the ball with the grace and accuracy of someone fully sighted. She caught it cleanly, mid-air, her body subtly adjusting in anticipation of the ball's trajectory. The audience gasped. A collective silence fell over the room. Barbara Chen exhaled in relief and disbelief. Karen's face, hidden behind designer sunglasses, flushed a deep red. For the first time, there was no act, no theatrics, no victim performance, only raw panic. The evidence of her perfect vision could not be ignored, twisted, or rationalized. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed, the cold, calculated fury of a seasoned judge settling into every word she spoke next. "Mrs. Whitmore, explained to this court how a completely blind woman catches a ball thrown directly at her face." "Go ahead, I'll wait." Karen's lips parted, words faltering. She stammered, It was reflex. Anyone would have." Her voice cracked, and no excuse could mask the undeniable truth. Judge Judy's tone hardened, her decades of courtroom authority evident in every syllable. "Reflexes do not allow a person to track a moving object through space and adjust their hands in real time with perfect coordination. That is called visual motor coordination. That requires sight, Mrs. Whitmore, and you clearly have it." The courtroom audience murmured in stunned agreement. Karen's defenses crumbled like sandcastles against an incoming tide. Her carefully rehearsed lies, the months of manipulation, the fraudulent lawsuits, the sympathetic sob story, all of it collapsed simultaneously. Every step she had taken to exploit disability benefits, every claim she had fabricated against Barbara Chun, every dollar she had illicitly collected now hung in the air as undeniable proof of fraud. Judge Judy didn't pause to let the shock fade. She reached for another folder, thicker than any previously presented, and began revealing the full scope of Karen's deception. Mrs. Whitmore, this isn't your first scheme. It's your fourth. 4 separate lawsuits against 4 employers, all claiming the same sudden blindness, all demanding large settlements. You've been collecting disability payments for 6 months while performing daily tasks with perfect sight. You've parked illegally with fraudulent placards. Every single claim, meticulously designed to exploit systems meant for genuine needs, has been built on lies. Karen's shoulders sagged and tears began streaming down her face. These weren't the fake crocodile tears of a rehearsed victim, they were real. A manifestation of panic, humiliation, and the sudden realization that the world had seen through her. She tried to speak, but her voice came out strangled. Your Honor, I can explain. Asterisk Judge Judy's expression was merciless. Explain, Mrs. Whitmore? Explain systematically defrauding people, falsifying medical documents, lying to your employers, and exploiting the Social Security system for personal gain. There's nothing to explain. You have been caught red-handed, and this court will not tolerate it. The bailiff handed Judge Judy another document, a ledger detailing the $87,000 Karen had illicitly collected through disability claims, forged accommodations, and fraudulent lawsuits. Judge Judy held it up for the cameras. $87,000, Mrs. Whitmore. That is not civil negligence. That is theft, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, every day. Real disabled individuals rely on systems like Social Security to survive. You have mocked them for personal gain. And now, you face the consequences. Karen collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Her mascara ran, her designer sunglasses clattered to the floor, and her entire carefully constructed persona lay in ruins. Judge Judy's voice was sharp, decisive, and final. Judgment for the defendant. Case dismissed with prejudice. You will pay Miss Chun $5,000 for legal fees, and the bailiff will contact the district attorney immediately regarding criminal charges for fraud, perjury, and forgery. The courtroom erupted. Cameras captured every moment of Karen's humiliation. Clips of the tennis ball catch, her exposure, and the judge's precise dismantling of her fraud would go viral within hours. Social media exploded hashtags like #FakeBlindKaren, #BaileyTheHero, and #JudgeJudyJustice trended worldwide. Disability rights advocates praised Judge Judy for defending genuine claims and exposing manipulative frauds who threatened public trust. Barbara Chun's expression softened, a mix of vindication and relief. Her business, once threatened by months of legal battles, could now recover without fear of frivolous litigation. And Bailey, the golden retriever, the four-legged enforcer of truth, became an instant sensation. A hero of the day whose role would be celebrated across the internet. Karen Whitmore's exposure served as more than just a cautionary tale. It was a masterclass in investigative courtroom strategy, meticulous preparation, and unflinching commitment to justice. Judge Judy's methods, combining traditional legal examination with practical demonstrations and irrefutable evidence, left no room for interpretation. Fraud, particularly when exploiting genuine disabilities, would not go unpunished by the end of the day. Karen faced multiple criminal charges, potential prison time, and the revocation of all fraudulent benefits. Her name, once associated with manipulation and deceit, would now be a warning etched into online discourse. Every step she had taken to exploit the legal system had been undone in a matter of minutes. The world had witnessed the perfect storm of deception, exposure, and public accountability, all orchestrated with precision by Judge Judy. The viral impact was immediate. Clips of Karen catching the tennis ball were shared, reshared, and discussed in mainstream media outlets. Real blind individuals praised the exposure of someone who had mocked their lived experiences. Social media users debated, discussed, and marveled at the flawless execution of justice. And at the center of it all stood Judge Judy, unwavering, methodical, and utterly merciless toward entitlement and deception. Corinne's empire of lies had come crashing down, and the world had watched every second of it unfold. But even with the evidence, the humiliation, and the viral exposure, the story wasn't entirely over. There was still the question of what would happen to her criminally, and what lessons future would-be fraudsters would learn from her spectacular downfall. Asterisk. The courtroom had barely begun to settle after Karen Whitmore's dramatic exposure when Judge Judy signaled the bailiff to proceed with the next step. The audience, still buzzing from the tennis ball test, watched as the bailiff picked up the phone and made a call to the district attorney's office. The official announcement came moments later. Karen Whitmore would be facing criminal charges for disability fraud, forgery, perjury, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The news hit social media like a lightning bolt. Within minutes, clips of Karen catching the tennis ball and the meticulous unraveling of her deception were uploaded to multiple platforms. Users across the globe shared the footage with captions ranging from shock to gleeful vindication. Fake blind Karen exposed by Judge Judy. Justice served with a tennis ball. Bailey the hero dog saves the day. By the end of the first hour, the video had already surpassed 10 million views. And the numbers kept climbing exponentially. Karen's face, now completely uncovered, became an internet symbol of entitlement meeting accountability. Every angle of her failure, the sunglasses, the exaggerated gestures, the failed cane demonstration, the precise tennis ball catch was analyzed in clips, memes, and reaction videos. People dissected her every move, pointing out where her rehearsed performance had betrayed her. The hashtags #FakeBlindKaren, #JudgeJudyJustice, and #Bailey the Hero trended worldwide, dominating conversations across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and even news networks. Barbara Chun, the defendant who had spent months defending herself against Karen's fraudulent claims, watched in quiet vindication. Her legal fees were reimbursed, and the public exposure vindicated her reputation. She gave a brief statement to the media. "This case wasn't just about my business, it was about truth. I'm grateful for Judge Judy's meticulous approach, which protected me and highlighted the dangers of fraudulent claims against hardworking individuals." Meanwhile, Karen's social media accounts were scrutinized. Investigators combed through her posts, videos, and photographs, each providing further proof that she could see perfectly well. Her claims of blindness were systematically debunked, post by post, image by image. Photos of Karen driving, shopping, reading, and performing precise tasks activities she had claimed were impossible flooded online discussions. Each revelation added fuel to the growing public outrage. Judge Judy, ever the master of controlling the narrative, didn't allow the chaos to distract from the legal process. She methodically outlined the consequences Karen faced, emphasizing that this wasn't just about embarrassment, it was about criminal activity. Fraud has real victims, Judge Judy stated firmly, her voice resonating with authority. People with genuine disabilities are denied benefits when fraudsters exploit the system. Employers, taxpayers, and institutions suffer. Mrs. Whitmore's actions were deliberate, manipulative, and malicious. Justice isn't optional. Karen, seated in the courtroom, now fully aware of the magnitude of her situation, could barely respond. The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. Every viewer could see the collapse of a carefully constructed persona. Her tears were no longer strategic. They were the physical manifestation of fear, humiliation, and regret. The realization that her life had irrevocably changed in mere minutes sank in. Bailey, the golden retriever, remained by Judge Judy's side, a silent symbol of truth and justice. The dog's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with Karen's frantic behavior, emphasizing the stark contrast between preparation and performance, integrity and deception. Social media users celebrated Bailey as a hero, and posts highlighting the dog's role in exposing Karen's lies flooded the internet. People marveled at how a trained service dog had become an integral part of a historic courtroom takedown. As the courtroom proceedings moved towards sentencing and legal follow-ups, Judge Judy didn't shy away from detailing the full extent of Karen's criminal enterprise. The 4 lawsuits, each fraudulent and targeted at unsuspecting employers, were laid bare. Every document, every forged signature, every manipulated scenario was reviewed with precision. This was not a one-time act, Judge Judy emphasized. This was a calculated, multi-layered scheme designed to exploit every opportunity for personal gain. Outside the courtroom, news crews captured the reaction of viewers and internet users worldwide. Commentary ranged from shocked disbelief to satisfaction at the unflinching exposure of fraud. Disability advocates praised the outcome, emphasizing how fraudulent claims undermine trust in critical systems. Karen Whitmore's actions were more than deceitful, said one advocate. They were a direct insult to every person living with a genuine disability. Judge Judy's handling of this case has set a precedent that fraud will not be tolerated, and truth will prevail. Asterisk, the fallout for Karen was immediate and severe. Legal authorities froze her accounts, began reviewing her prior claims, and prepared charges for multiple counts of fraud. Social Security and disability benefits she had fraudulently collected were revoked, with restitution demands totaling tens of thousands of dollars. Her pending lawsuits were dismissed, her reputation obliterated, and her public image reduced to a cautionary tale shared across classrooms, workplaces, and online communities. Judge Judy closed the session with a final, scathing reminder: this is why preparation, truthfulness, and integrity matter. If you choose to exploit systems, manipulate trust, and mock those who genuinely need support, you will be exposed. And you will face consequences swift, public, and uncompromising. Mrs. Whitmore's story is a warning. Fraud has no hiding place here. Asterisk, the courtroom erupted in applause, not for Karen, but for justice itself. Barbara Chun, relieved and vindicated, collected her thoughts while the media captured every detail. Bailey, the golden retriever, wagged her tail subtly, unaware of the internet fame awaiting her. And Karen Whitmore, once confident and manipulative, now faced the harsh reality of her downfall: criminal charges, social media humiliation, and the collapse of everything she had built on deception. By the end of the day, the video clips had gone viral across every platform. Millions of people watched, shared, and commented. Justice had not only been served, it had become a global spectacle, a lesson in accountability, and an unforgettable display of unflinching truth. Karen's fate was sealed, and the world had witnessed a courtroom takedown that would be remembered for years to come. Asterisk, the aftermath of Karen Whitmore's exposure extended far beyond the courtroom. Within days, every detail of her deception had gone viral. The video of her catching the tennis ball, the failed cane demonstration, and Judge Judy's meticulous dismantling of her fraudulent claims circulated across social media, news outlets, and even international media networks. For Karen, there was no hiding from the humiliation that had become global spectacle. Criminal investigations moved swiftly. Prosecutors reviewed every fraudulent lawsuit, bank transaction, and disability claim she had filed. With overwhelming evidence including social media posts, security footage, forged medical documents, and the irrefutable tennis ball test charges were filed against her for multiple counts of fraud, perjury, and forgery. Legal analysts across the country remarked on the unprecedented nature of the case. Fraudsters were exposed every day, but rarely with such undeniable proof and public accountability. Karen's first court appearance, following Judge Judy's viral episode, was a stark contrast to her previous confident performances. She entered the courtroom alone, no sunglasses, no theatrics, no cane. Her shoulders slumped, eyes downcast. Every camera in the room seemed to capture her shame in real time. Prosecutors presented the evidence methodically, showing a timeline of her fraudulent activities, the financial impact on employers, and the clear manipulation of the system designed to aid genuinely disabled individuals. Judge Judy's role in the exposure of Karen Whitmore became central to the prosecution's narrative. Clips from the original courtroom session were replayed for reference, highlighting the moment Karen's lies were laid bare: the cane demonstration, the tennis ball catch, and her immediate unraveling. The footage left little room for argument. Even seasoned attorneys remarked on the precision with which Judge Judy had anticipated and exposed every one of Karen's fabricated claims. Public interest in the trial remained extraordinary. News networks ran segments analyzing Karen's methods, her social media activity, and her carefully constructed lies. Social media influencers and advocacy groups dissected the case, emphasizing the broader societal implications. Fraudulent claims undermined trust in essential systems, and Karen's case had become a cautionary tale, illustrating just how damaging deceit could be. Not just financially, but morally. Finally, the day of sentencing arrived. Karen sat in court, trembling as the judge reviewed the evidence and the gravity of her actions. Judge Judy, who had become something of a symbol of ultimate accountability through her viral takedown, did not participate in the sentencing directly, but her prior handling of the case set the tone for proceedings. Karen's defense attorneys argued for leniency, citing personal stress, desperation, and misguided intentions. But the court was unmoved. The deliberate nature of her actions, the repeated fraudulent claims, and the financial and emotional toll on victims like Barbara Chun outweighed any mitigating factors. The judge delivered the verdict with unwavering clarity. Karen Whitmore was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, required to pay full restitution for the $87,000 she had fraudulently collected, and face ongoing probation and monitoring to prevent further abuse of public systems. The sentence also included mandatory community service, focused on public awareness about disability fraud and the ethical responsibility of honesty in civil claims. Barbara Chen, the innocent employer who had endured months of stress and financial cost due to Karen's fabricated claims, finally experienced closure. Her business recovered and thrived, strengthened by public support and the vindication of her reputation. In interviews, she emphasized the broader message of the case, the importance of accountability, integrity, and vigilance against those who seek to exploit goodwill. The internet, however, was far from done with Karen Whitmore. Her mugshot, the viral tennis ball catch, and the dramatic courtroom exposure became a permanent fixture online. Memes, reaction videos, and educational content about fraud featured her as a cautionary example. Disability advocacy groups used her case to educate the public about the consequences of faking disabilities, reinforcing that such acts harm those with genuine needs. Bailey, the golden retriever who had played an unintentional yet heroic role in exposing the fraud, became a global sensation. Social media users celebrated the dog's calm precision and effectiveness, with fan accounts, merchandise, and tributes highlighting Bailey's contribution to truth and justice. She became a symbol of integrity, demonstrating that sometimes even a four-legged observer can be more perceptive than those attempting deceit. The story of Karen Whitmore became a staple in legal discussions, ethics seminars, and public awareness campaigns. Teachers, attorneys, and advocacy groups used her case to demonstrate the consequences of fraud, emphasizing how entitlement, deception, and greed can lead to irreversible personal and professional destruction. Every step of her fraudulent plan had been meticulously dismantled, proving that no scheme, no matter how clever it seems, can withstand the scrutiny of evidence, careful observation, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. Judge Judy's handling of the case became legendary. Legal analysts praised her foresight, strategic use of evidence, and ability to orchestrate real-time tests that exposed deception conclusively. The episode remained one of the most viewed in courtroom television history, serving as both a lesson in entertainment and reinforcing public faith and accountability and justice. Karen Whitmore's life had been irrevocably changed. From a position of manipulation, entitlement, and deceit, she now faced legal consequences, social disgrace, and the collapse of her fraudulent empire. She became a warning to anyone considering exploiting systems, attempting to fake disabilities, or thinking that public perception could shield them from accountability. The moral of this story was crystal clear: integrity matters. Deception has consequences, and justice, when pursued with precision, courage, and ethical commitment, cannot be fooled. Fraudsters, scammers, and entitled individuals alike would remember Karen Whitmer's downfall as a testament to what happens when arrogance meets accountability, and sometimes justice comes not only with the authority of a judge, but with the precision of a golden retriever and a simple tennis ball lesson in truth, vigilance, and the undeniable power of evidence. The story ended not just with punishment, but with a lesson that echoed far beyond the courtroom walls. No lie, no matter how carefully constructed, can withstand the combined force of observation, evidence, and uncompromising justice. Karen Whitmore's name would live on, not as a mark of achievement, but as a permanent cautionary tale. Fraud destroys everything it touches, and those who mock the genuinely vulnerable will eventually face consequences, public, legal, and unforgettable. Asterisk. That's it for today's case. An unbelievable tale of fraud, deception, and justice served in the most shocking way. If you thought Karen Whitmore's story was intense, just wait until you see what's coming next. Don't miss out on the next jaw-dropping courtroom moment hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to witness scammers, fraudsters, and entitled individuals getting exposed in real time. Drop a comment below and tell us what you would have done if you were in Judge Judy's courtroom. And remember, justice always finds a way, sometimes with 4 legs, sometimes with a tennis ball, and always with the truth. Subscribe now and be part of the ultimate journey through the most shocking courtroom dramas on the internet.
Say whatever you want, but don't act like you're innocent. Everyone here knows you're the problem, right? If you're done embarrassing yourself, sit down, because I'm about to show you what the truth actually looks like. Oh, please, your fake power trip won't fool anyone. You're just hiding behind that robe. Fuck you.
No courtroom in television history had ever felt this dangerous, like justice itself was holding its breath. The doors swung open, and in walked a woman whose reputation had poisoned an entire neighborhood. Valerie Crane, the iron-fisted president of the prestigious Lakeside Meadows, HOA, strode in as if she owned the courtroom, the studio, and everyone inside it. She didn't know that today. Her entire empire was about to collapse. Her heels clicked like warning shots across the floor as she planted herself in front of America's toughest judge. Without hesitation, Valerie pointed her glossy, manicured nail at Judge Judith Halloran, the woman known nationwide for dismantling liars with surgical precision. And then Valerie said the words that would end her life as she knew it. You really don't get it, Judge, honestly. You're acting stupid. You clearly don't understand real HO law. Silence. A silence so sharp it felt like the walls themselves recoiled. Judge Halloran's stare froze the air. This was the death stare that had made seasoned attorneys crumble and defendants beg for forgiveness. But Valerie? She smirked, unaware she had just awakened the most dangerous version of the judge. What happened next would not just shock the courtroom. It would make Valerie Crane the most despised woman in America. Valerie believed she was untouchable. Why wouldn't she? For almost a decade, she'd ruled her suburban kingdom like a dictator wrapped in designer clothing. Every homeowner knew her power. Every homeowner feared her letters, her fines, her midnight inspections disguised as community checks. She didn't enforce rules. She weaponized them. In her reign, she'd forced newlywed couples into bankruptcy. She'd bullied single parents into selling their homes. She'd driven elderly residents, people who've lived in the community since it was built, to tears with threats of liens and legal action. Today was supposed to be just another trophy on her shelf. Another homeowner she would publicly humiliate. Another case that would reaffirm her power. She had nitrogen monoxide idea, Judge. Halloran had stayed up late the night before reviewing police reports, financial audits, court filings, and digging deep into databases. Even Valerie didn't know existed. She had nitrogen monoxide idea that the judge held documents capable of detonating her entire life, and she had nitrogen monoxide idea that the woman she had just called stupid knew secrets that could put her behind bars. On the plaintiff's side sat Elena Morales, clutching a folder that trembled in her hands. Inside were copies of every violation notice, every threatening email, every unfair fine Valerie had issued over 2 relentless years. Elena hadn't slept well in months. Her kids cried at night asking why the HOA lady hated them. Her dream home, the one she and her husband had poured everything into, had become a psychological prison, and the entire nightmare had started with something so small, so harmless. It was almost unbelievable. A butterfly garden, a tiny patch of flowers and milkweed, her youngest daughter planted for a school project. That was enough for Valerie to start a 2-year campaign. $300 fines for unapproved flora. $700 fines for hose not coiled to HOA standards. $400 fines because her children drew chalk art on the driveway. Threats of a lien on the house. And a total of $17,600 in random charges. Elena's husband had begged her to quit fighting. Valerie destroys everyone, he warned. But Elena refused to bow down. She had no idea she was minutes away from watching the greatest judicial takedown in TV history. Halloran leaned back, studying Valerie with the cold precision of someone who had already solved the puzzle. In 35 years of law, the judge had developed a sixth sense, a radar for manipulators, narcissists, and predators. And from the second Valerie strutted into the courtroom, she had checked every box. The fake professionalism, the dismissive smirks, the casual cruelty when referring to Alana's family. Every word Valerie spoke dripped with entitlement and venom. The judge's internal alarms weren't just ringing, they were screaming, and the documents waiting under her bench confirmed every suspicion. This wasn't just an HOA bully. This was someone who had spent her entire adult life perfecting a pattern of calculated abuse. But Valerie? She thought she was the smartest person in the room. The studio audience, a mix of retirees, legal fanatics, and longtime viewers, felt the tension brewing. They'd watched Judge Halloran annihilate arrogant defendants for years. They recognized the signs, the judge's stillness, the tiny smirk forming, the way she tapped her pen like a fuse ready to ignite. But today, something was different, something darker, something that felt like a bomb was ticking. Valerie began her opening statement with icy confidence. Your Honor, this resident simply refuses to respect our community guidelines. She created a botanical disturbance, completely unauthorized, and then acted like a victim when I enforced the rules. 1. Maintain order. I protect property values. I am the only reason Lakeside Meadows remains a prestigious neighborhood. When Elena's voice cracked as she described her children's fear, Valerie rolled her eyes. Theatrics, she whispered loudly enough for the audience to hear. She's playing the sympathy card. The crowd gasped. Valerie smirked again. She believed she was winning, but the judge was only waiting, watching, sharpening the blade. Judge Halloran began her questioning soft. Harmless at first. Mrs. Crane, how long have you been HOA president? 8 years, Valerie answered proudly. And you believe you're qualified to enforce property laws? I know more than most lawyers, she bragged. The arrogance dripped like oil. The judge turned a page in her file. And these fines, why so high? Valerie shrugged. Some people only learn through pressure. If you let rule breakers slide, you destroy a community. And Elena Morales? The judge pressed. She broke countless rules. I simply upheld the standards everyone agreed to. The judge paused. The room felt like it tilted. Mrs. Crane, she said quietly, how many families have moved out because of your enforcement? Valerie answered instantly. 20. And good riddance. They didn't belong in a high-standard community. The entire room went still. Even Valerie seemed to realize she had revealed too much. That's when the judge leaned in. Eyes cold. Voice razor-sharp. Interesting. She pulled out a thick, red-tabbed folder, the one Valerie hadn't noticed until now. Before we proceed, there is something about your background we need to discuss. Valerie's pupils shrank. Her spine stiffened. Color drained from her face. The judge lifted the file like a weapon. Mrs. Valerie Crane, formerly Valerie Grant, you have a very interesting criminal record. The audience erupted gasps. Whispers, disbelief. Valerie's mouth opened. No sound came out. Judge Halloran wasn't done, not even close. Asterisk. It began with a silence so cold and sharp the entire Courtroom felt it slice straight through them. Karen Langford, queen of polished cruelty, tyrant of Meadow Grove, and self-proclaimed guardian of neighborhood excellence, sat rigid in her seat, lips trembling so slightly that only someone studying her could see it. But Judge Helena Mercer saw everything. Her eyes were trained for micro-expressions, the tiny cracks that form when liars feel the truth chasing them down. And those cracks? Karen was full of them. Judge Mercer folded her hands together on the bench, her posture the very picture of calm authority. That calm terrified Karen more than raised voices ever could. "Mrs. Langford," the judge said slowly, "you seem nervous." The audience leaned forward as one, like spectators at the edge of a cliff, waiting for gravity to do its work. Karen forced a laugh, sharp, brittle. The laugh of someone trying to stitch her dignity back together before it fell apart completely. "And nervous? No, Judge. I'm simply astonished that we're entertaining such dramatics over a few community rules. I enforce standards. That's all." Helena lifted one eyebrow, the corner of her mouth curling almost imperceptibly. A predator's smirk. "Standards," she repeated. "Is that what you call what you've done to Mrs. Ramon and her family?" A murmur rolled across the courtroom. Aaliyah Ramon, seated at the plaintiff's table, tightened her grip on the file full of harassment, letters, pages and pages of small-minded tyranny disguised as HOA enforcement. Karen crossed her arms, leaning back with the entitlement of someone who had bullied her way through life unchecked. "If people followed the rules," Karen said sharply, "I wouldn't have to enforce anything. Mrs. Ramon violated community landscaping regulations, exterior design codes, and noise protocols." Aaliyah blinked in confusion. "Noise protocols? My children were doing their homework?" "Exactly," Karen snapped, typing loudly, slamming drawers. Everyone heard it. The courtroom erupted in stunned laughter. Even the bailiff failed to hide his smirk. Judge Mercer tapped her gavel sharply once. "Order." Her voice sliced clean through the chaos. Then she turned her gaze back to Karen. "Mrs. Langford, do you understand that your accusations are not only absurd, they border on harassment of the worst kind? You fined this family nearly $19,000 over a garden, a paint swatch, and excessive typing?" Karen's chin lifted defiantly. "The rules are the rules." That single sentence, uttered with the pride of a dictator, was all. Judge Mercer needed. She slid a thick envelope across her bench. A document so weighty that Karen's eyes widened. "Before we go further," Helena said with a sharp inhale, "I need to clarify something. Your governing authority as HOA president. Specifically, whether you actually have any." Confusion flickered across Karen's face. For the first time all morning, she seemed unsure of herself. Asterisk. "What do you mean?" she demanded. Helena didn't answer. Instead, she nodded to the bailiff. He approached the defense table and placed a stack of certified documents, each stamped with county and state verification, right, in front of Karen. Karen's fingers trembled as she flipped through them. What is this?" she whispered. Helena's tone turned deadly quiet. "Mrs. Langford, these are the original HOA formation documents for Meadow Grove, including the required roster of elected board members for the past 10 years. Karen looked up. Her face had lost color. Helena continued. "According to these files, you were never officially elected." A gasp rippled through the gallery so loud the walls almost shook. Karen's mouth fell open. That's impossible. "I've been president for 7 years. "Yes," Helena replied dryly. "You appointed yourself after forcing the then president to resign. Through intimidation, you then failed to file the annual election notices. Meaning legally, your authority never existed." Karen clutched the edge of the table. The ramifications hit her like a storm. If she was never president, Gibbs. Her fines were invalid. Gibbs. Her enforcement letters were illegal. Gibbs. Her authority was a lie. Gibbs and every single family she harassed now had grounds to sue her. Aaliyah's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of relief. "Judge," she whispered softly, "after everything she's done, Does this mean my family? Yes, Helena said firmly. Every fine she issued, every violation she penned, every legal threat she sent null and void. Karen's breathing accelerated. You can't do this, she spat. You don't know what this neighborhood is like without structure, without control. Without me, without you, Helena interrupted. Families might finally breathe. Karen slammed her hands on the table. I held that community together. Helena didn't flinch. You terrorized them. A deadly silence followed. Then Helena flipped to the final page of the folder. She held a page she had been saving for the perfect moment. Mrs. Langford, she said, voice lowering. I conducted a preliminary background check last night. Karen froze, every muscle in her body locked in place. Your maiden name, Helena continued, is not Langford. You changed it 8 months before moving to Meadow Ridge Grove. Karen's throat bobbed. That was for privacy. No, Helena corrected. It was to hide your prior conviction. The courtroom went silent. Conviction? Alia whispered. Judge Mercer nodded. Double quotes. Mrs. Langford served 14 months in state prison for credit line fraud, specifically targeting immigrant families unfamiliar with banking laws. A wave of disgust swept through the audience. Alia's hand flew to her mouth. Karen shut her eyes tight. As if darkness could hide her, Helena's tone sharpened. And now you've repeated that pattern only, this time under the guise of an HOA. She leaned forward. What you call standards? I call exploitation. Karen's mask shattered completely. No, she whispered. No, you can't expose that. My husband, my neighbors, no one knows. That, Helena said sharply, is precisely the problem. The judge closed the folder with finality. This court will not allow a convicted fraudster to weaponize fake authority, to destroy innocent families. Her gavel hovered. Karen shook her head violently. Stop. Please, Judge, please don't do this. You don't understand. Helena's voice thundered across the room. Oh, I understand perfectly. You spent years preying on people who couldn't fight back. And today finally someone is fighting you. With a crack that echoed through every corner of the courtroom, Judge Mercer brought the gavel down. We're just getting started. Asterisk. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair. Her eyes locked on Fatima with the kind of stare that could turn steel into dust. The courtroom was so silent, it almost felt like the whole building was holding its breath. Even the cameras seemed to freeze, waiting for what she'd say next. Let me make something perfectly clear, Judge Judy said, her voice low, controlled, and deadly cold. In my courtroom, you don't get to lie. You don't get to shout. And you certainly don't get to insult people to hide your own insecurities. That foolishness stops right here. Fatima crossed her arms, rolling her eyes so dramatically it looked like she was trying to search for intelligence somewhere on the ceiling. Oh my God, Judge. Relax. You're acting like you're some kind of superhero or something. It's not that serious. The spectators stiffened. The bailiff raised an eyebrow. Even the plaintiff seemed to shrink back, knowing Fatima had just thrown herself straight into a fire with no escape route. Judge Judy didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even breathe for a moment. Then she leaned forward. Oh, it's serious now, she said, her tone slicing the air like a blade. Because you just proved you have zero respect, zero manners, and zero understanding of where you're standing. You're in a courtroom, not a playground. And certainly not social media where you can hide behind filters and fake confidence. Fatima scoffed. Okay, wow. Deep. Are you done lecturing? Or should I get popcorn for the performance? Someone in the audience gasped out loud. The bailiff took a half step forward, ready for anything. Even the camera zoomed in, sensing this was the moment, the kind of moment viewers replay for years because of the sheer drama. Judge Judy slowly placed her hands on the desk. Young lady, she said, if attitude was currency, you'd be the richest person in this room. But unfortunately for you, in my courtroom, facts matter. Evidence matters. And your behavior right now? It's telling me everything I need to know. Fatima smirked and shrugged. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Oh, I sleep just fine, Judge Judy snapped back. It's people like you who lose sleep when reality finally hits them. Fatima's smile flickered, just for a millisecond. It was tiny, but Judge Judy saw it. Everyone saw it. That was the first crack in Fatima's overconfident shell. Judge Judy turned her attention to the file in front of her, flipping a few pages with exaggerated calmness. "So, let's go over it again," she said. "You damaged her property. You laughed about it. You mocked her while she was visibly upset. And when she confronted you, your response was, 'Let me check.' Ah, yes. You told her she should be grateful anyone was even talking to her." Fatima rolled her eyes again, but didn't speak. "Do you know what that tells me?" Judge Judy asked, not looking up. No answer. "It tells me," she continued, "that you're not just irresponsible. You're cruel. And cruelty disguised as confidence is one of the ugliest traits a person can have." Fatima finally snapped a bit. "Look, Judge, she's acting like I destroyed her whole life. It was just a small thing. She's being dramatic on purpose." Judge Judy slammed the folder shut. Asterisk. "Don't play with me," she said sharply. "You're the dramatic one. You caused the problem. Then you humiliated her. And now you're trying to play innocent? No, that ends today." Fatima chuckled under her breath. "You're making it sound like I committed a crime." "Emotional cruelty isn't a crime," Judge Judy replied sternly. "But it reveals exactly the kind of person you are. And believe me, people like you almost always learn their lessons the hard way." Fatima looked annoyed, like a child being scolded for the first time. "Can we just get this over with?" She muttered. Double quotes. "Oh, we will," Judge Judy said. "Trust me." Judge Judy turned to the plaintiff, who was nervously twisting her hands together. "You told me earlier you tried to apologize to her, and she laughed in your face." The plaintiff nodded gently. "Yes, Your Honor, she pushed me too. I didn't fall, but it scared me." Fatima snapped. "I didn't push her. I bumped into her because she was blocking the way." "You shoved her," Judge Judy said flatly. "You didn't even check if she was okay. And when she felt hurt, you added insult to injury. Why? Because you thought you were above her? Because you felt superior?" Fatima shrugged again, though this time her confidence felt thinner. "People like you," Judge Judy said, pointing toward her, "walk around acting untouchable. Until someone finally stops them. And guess what? Today, that someone is me." Fatima's jaw tightened. Judge Judy continued, "Let me explain something. Respect isn't a decoration. It's not optional. It's not something you give only to people you like. Respect is the bare minimum of human decency. And your behavior shows that you don't even meet that minimum." Fatima opened her mouth to reply, but Judge Judy held up a hand. "No, not another word from you." Fatima closed her mouth, more out of shock than obedience. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, eyes narrowing. "You came in here acting like this was a joke? Like people's feelings don't matter? Like the courtroom is your personal stage? Fine, here's your finale." Then she lifted the gavel slightly. "You are paying for every bit of the damage. Every cost. Every fee. 100%. Fatima's eyes widened. "Wait, what? That's not fair." Judge Judy slammed the gavel once. The sound echoed like thunder. Asterisk, fair. She repeated, "Don't talk to me about fair. Fair would have been you acting like a decent human being in the first place." Fatima glared, but the confidence was draining rapidly. "And one more thing," Judge Judy said, pointing at her again. "Next time you feel like mocking someone, choose someone who won't put you in your place. Because I will every single time." The gavel struck again, loud, final, unquestionable. Fatima stood frozen, her face pale, her attitude shattered. The plaintiff exhaled in relief, the crowd murmured, and the bailiff gestured for everyone to leave. Fatima had walked into the courtroom overconfident. She walked out destroyed by nothing more than the truth. Asterisk. The courtroom began to clear, but Judge Judy wasn't done, not with Fatima, and not with the message that needed to be delivered. As people shuffled out, Fatima still stood there, frozen like she'd just been hit by a reality she didn't see coming. Her confidence had cracks all over it now, and for the first time since entering the courtroom, she looked unsure. Judge Judy glanced at the bailiff. "Hold her a moment." The bailiff stopped Fatima with a light gesture. Fatima turned, her attitude wobbling between anger and fear. Judge Judy folded her arms. "Young lady, you're not walking out of here just yet." Fatima swallowed. "Why? You already embarrassed me. Isn't that enough?" "No," Judge Judy said. "Embarrassment is temporary. Lessons are permanent. And I want this lesson to stay with you." Fatima clenched her jaw. "I said sorry already," she muttered weakly. "No," Judge Judy replied sharply. "You didn't. You apologized only because you got caught. That's not remorse. That's panic." Fatima looked away, tapping her foot nervously. Judge Judy continued, "You come off as someone who thinks the world owes her something. That rules don't apply to you. That you can step on people because you think you're bigger, smarter, prettier, or more important." Fatima blinked rapidly, trying not to look affected. "People always judge me anyway, so why should I care?" "That's not an excuse," Judge Judy replied. "Being judged doesn't give you permission to hurt others. Your behavior is your responsibility, not anyone else's burden." Fatima shifted uncomfortably. This time she didn't roll her eyes. She didn't talk back. She just stood there, her bravado leaking away. Judge Judy softened her tone, not completely, but enough to pierce deeper. "I've seen thousands of people walk through this courtroom. Let me tell you something. The toughest looking ones are usually the most fragile. And you hide behind attitude because you're terrified someone will see what's underneath." Fatima's lip twitched. Judge Judy continued, "But here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from degrading others. It comes from respecting yourself and respecting the people around you." Fatima blinked again, her eyes suddenly glassy. She quickly wiped her face, pretending it was nothing. Judge Judy noticed, of course. "She notices everything. I'm not here to destroy you," Judge Judy said. "I'm here to wake you up." Fatima looked at the floor. "I didn't mean for it to become a big deal." "It became a big deal the moment you made someone feel small on purpose," Judge Judy replied. Fatima opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she didn't have a sarcastic comment. Judge Judy sighed. "If you continue down this path, you'll lose people. Friends, opportunities, trust. All of it. Not because you're bad, but because you're careless. And people eventually walk away from careless." Fatima inhaled shakily. The plaintiff, who had stayed back quietly, stepped forward. "Your Honor, if I may?" Judge Judy nodded. The plaintiff turned to Fatima, voice soft but steady. "I wasn't angry because of the things you broke. I was hurt because of the things you said. You didn't have to mock me. You didn't have to push me. I didn't deserve that." Fatima's shoulders sagged a little. She whispered, "I know." The plaintiff added, "I never wanted this to go this far. I just wanted a sincere apology." Fatima looked up, her face conflicted, pride battling guilt. She opened her mouth but hesitated. Judge Judy tapped the desk. "You have something to say?" Fatima took a breath. "I'm sorry," but then she sighed, shaking her head. "No, let me say it right. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. I shouldn't have pushed you or mocked you. I'm embarrassed about how I acted. Not because of the case. Because of myself." The courtroom, though mostly empty, felt heavier with emotion. The plaintiff nodded gently. "Thank you. That's all I wanted." Fatima wiped her eyes again. "I didn't think it would hurt you that much," she admitted. "I was just being stupid." Judge Judy interjected, "You were being reckless. But admitting it is the first step toward being better." Fatima nodded. "I'll pay for the damages. All of them. And I'll do better." Judge Judy gave a small nod, firm but approving. "Good, because life is going to keep giving you chances to be better. Don't waste them." Fatima finally met her eyes, this time without attitude. "Thank you, Judge." Judge Judy's voice returned to its professional tone. "Case is concluded. Bailiff, you may release her." The bailiff stepped aside. Fatima turned to leave, but before she reached the door, she paused. Something made her look back. Judge Judy raised one eyebrow. "Something else?" Fatima shook her head. "No, just thank you." Judge Judy didn't smile. She didn't soften completely. but her voice carried a quiet strength. "Make sure I never see you in this courtroom again." Fatima nodded firmly. "You won't." And this time, she meant it. The hallway outside the courtroom buzzed with low whispers as Fatima stepped out. The energy was different now, not the mocking, loud confidence she walked in with, but a calmer, quieter version of herself. The harsh fluorescent lights overhead reflected off her eyes, still slightly red from the emotion she tried so hard to hide. People who had watched the hearing gave her quick glances. Some judgmental, some curious, some even sympathetic. Fatima didn't react to any of them. For once, she wasn't trying to perform. She wasn't trying to look tough. She just wanted air. She leaned against a wall, taking slow breaths. Her chest felt tight, but there was something else to something she wasn't used to feeling. Relief. Not because she won, she didn't, but because, in a strange way, losing the case had taken a weight off her. A weight she didn't even realize she'd been carrying. The plaintiff walked out a moment later, hesitating when she saw Fatima. She looked uncertain, like she didn't want to make things worse. Fatima noticed and straightened up slightly. "You don't have to look scared," Fatima said softly, her voice lacking the bite it usually had. "I'm not scared," the plaintiff replied gently. "Just unsure." Fatima nodded. Fair. There was an awkward silence between them, heavy but not hostile. For the first time, they were two people simply trying to understand each other. "I meant what I said inside," Fatima finally spoke. "I really am sorry." The plaintiff studied her face, searching for honesty. She found it. "I know," she said. "Thank you." Fatima looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not good at this. I mess up a lot. I say stupid things when I get irritated, or jealous, or insecure." The plaintiff's expression softened. "Everyone messes up, Fatima. What matters is fixing it." Fatima let out a shaky laugh. "Judge Judy fixed it for me, hard." "She doesn't go easy on anyone," the plaintiff said with a small smile. Fatima smiled too, a real one. Not the sarcastic smirk she normally used. Another silence passed. This one felt lighter. The plaintiff spoke again, gently. "Can I tell you something?" Fatima braced herself. "Sure, you don't have to act tough all the time," the plaintiff said. "It's okay to just be human." Fatima froze. The words hit deeper than she expected. She wasn't used to kindness not aimed at her anyway. "Thanks," she whispered. "I'll try." The plaintiff nodded. She didn't expect a miracle, just sincerity. Fatima watched her walk away, and for a moment she just stood there, arms loosely at her sides, feeling the shift inside her. Her mind replayed Judge Judy's words, sharp, honest, unfiltered. Words that stung, but also healed. Confidence doesn't come from degrading others. It comes from respecting yourself. Fatima never thought she'd learn that lesson in a courtroom. She took another slow breath and finally walked toward the exit. The cold air outside rushed against her face. It felt like a reset button. A beginning instead of an ending. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, her phone buzzed with notifications, messages from friends who had seen the live hearing. "Oh my God, you got roasted so bad. LOL girl, why did you talk back to her? We're dying, that was wild." Send the clip on. Fatima stared at the messages, feeling old habits tug at her sarcasm. Ego, defensiveness, all trying to pull her back into the person she was, but something had changed. She locked her phone without replying and slid it into her pocket. This wasn't the moment for jokes. Not anymore. She took a deep breath and walked, not fast, not slow, just steady. Steady felt new to her. Steady felt right. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't trying to impress or prove anything. She was just trying to be better. Behind her, the courthouse doors swung closed with a heavy echo, sealing the chapter she desperately needed to outgrow. Ahead of her, the street stretched wide and open, full of people, full of choices, full of chances. Fatima whispered to herself, almost like a promise, "I won't go back to who I was." Inside the courtroom, Judge Judy gathered her papers. She paused for a moment, glancing toward the doors Fatima had exited through. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Judge Judy had seen that look before a young person at a crossroads. Some change. Some don't, but Fatima? She had hope written all over her face, and sometimes that's enough. Asterisk Fatima walked slowly down the street, hands tucked into her pockets, her mind replaying every moment inside that courtroom. The way she had spoken, the way Judge Judy had responded, the way the plaintiff had looked at her, not with anger, but with disappointment. That look stayed with her. She found a small bench near the courthouse, sat down, and watched people pass. Some in a hurry, some laughing, some stressed, some calm. Everyone living their own lives, fighting their own battles. And she realized something she had never truly understood. Asterisk, she wasn't the center of the world. Other people had feelings. Other people had struggles. Other people existed outside her bubble of attitude and defense. She pulled out her phone again. Dozens more messages poured in, friends wanting drama, gossip, jokes, memes about her courtroom moment for the first time ever. Their laughter didn't feel fun. It felt empty. She stared at her screen for a long moment, then opened a message box. Her fingers moved slowly but deliberately. Hey guys. I'm fine. But what happened today wasn't funny. I messed up, and I'm trying to fix it. I'll talk later, she hit send. No emojis, no jokes. No deflection. Just honesty. Her heart felt strange tight, but lighter. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. You okay? Fatima looked up to see the plaintiff standing a few feet away, holding a small folder. She must have been leaving the courthouse too. Fatima hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, just thinking. The plaintiff offered a gentle smile. I didn't mean to scare you earlier by taking it to court. You didn't, Fatima said quickly. I scared myself. Judge Judy just showed me the mirror. The plaintiff sat down beside her, not too close, but close enough to show understanding. You know, people can change, even if they've made mistakes. Fatima let out a breath. I want to. I've been acting like I'm tough, but really, I'm just tired. Tired of pretending. That's a good start, the plaintiff said. They sat there quietly for a moment, the world moving around them. Finally, Fatima spoke again. I'm paying for the damages today. All of them. No excuses. I appreciate that, the plaintiff replied softly. Fatima looked ahead, eyes steady. And I'm sorry. Not just for today. For everything. The plaintiff nodded. I accept it. A small, real, peaceful silence settled between them. Not awkward. Not heavy, just human. After a minute, the plaintiff stood. Take care of yourself, Fatima. I will, Fatima said. And she meant it. The plaintiff walked away, disappearing into the flow of the city. Fatima watched her go, then stood up herself. She took one last look at the courthouse, the place that had embarrassed her, humbled her, and strangely enough, freed her. She whispered to herself, this is my turning point. And with a new resolve in her step, Fatima walked forward, not perfect, not fixed, but finally on the right path. It was the end of the case, but the beginning of her change.